great thing about running is that you don't have to do it.
The same can be said for literally anything. You don't have to make art. You don't have to post on socials. You don't even have to make money. You don't. You could opt out of capitalism and live off the grid or whatever they call it these days. There's nothing that you have to do, but there are a lot of things that you can do that make your life your life. For me, art is a big part of my life. I love consuming art, whether it's music, movies, in a gallery, or on Instagram, craft shows, through children's books, literally anything. I'm not saying I'm a huge art nerd and I know a lot of art history, yada yada, but when I do like something, I like that I like it. Does that make sense? Making art, on the other hand, is a discipline. You hear a lot of stories about artists who can't help but make music or paint, and that's great for them, that's their outlet. But for me, I'm such a procrastinator when it comes to creating for myself. It's probably a combination of not being fully passionate about the actual art and the doom and gloom of being a starving artist looming over every move you make. And this is where running comes in. When I first got married in 2017, my husband and I decided that it would be a great idea to start running together. We, and by we I mean he, would wake up at 6 a.m. and then he would nag me until 7 before I actually got up. Mind you, this was in Perth and by 7:30 it's already like 30 degrees. It's so hot and the sun is blaring at you, and our suburb didn't have much scenery, so it was a drag to do these runs. The route I did was only 2 kilometers and it was so difficult for me to do the whole thing. I would stop and walk many times in that 2 kilometers, just wishing I could be on the couch. Eventually, we stopped running as the weather heated up more. It wasn't until we moved to Melbourne for the first time in 2021 that we decided to try and run again. We were living in a nice suburb with lots of greenery, and the weather was much more tolerable to run year round, so there really wasn't an excuse for it. I just started slow, doing 1 street loops, then 2, then 3, and so on. I was doing pretty well on my running schedule, running about 1 to 3 times a week. If you know about the Tan, aka the Royal Botanic Gardens, you would know that this track is famous. It's 3.8 kilometers and all gravel, and it overlooks the Yarra River for most of the route. It's gorgeous. For about 3 months, I was really trying to run the whole loop, but there is this massive hill that's just a killer, and I always end up walking halfway through. It's always a bit of a disappointment really, especially when it's the last bit of the loop. So for about 3 months, I was trying to crack this 3.8k loop. I know it sounds pretty dismal if you're like a runner, but you know, whatever. And then one day I found out I was pregnant. This pregnancy news hit me real hard. I never planned on having kids, but then I thought, yeah? I was struggling a lot with my art too, feeling like a failure, like nothing I create is ever good enough, you know, the usual. So with this on top, I felt like I was like a parent not worth being proud of, so that hurt. At the time I was working at a cafe and feeling pretty shit about myself, to be honest. I wasn't a successful artist, I wasn't even a designer, I was just working at a cafe. I remember very clearly, after work I had just felt so fed up about what was going on and not feeling a sense of accomplishment for a really long time. And now with baby coming, I wanted to do things that would make them proud of me. So after I finished a full shift, being on my feet for 8 hours, 6-ish weeks pregnant, I decided to go run that effing track. I was determined to run that entire loop without stopping. I drove to the gardens and drove around twice trying to look for a free park, and lo and behold, I find a parking spot right on top of the hill of death. I walk up to the track and I decided to start at the top of the hill for some reason, to make the journey easier, maybe? Not sure if that was a sound strategy, but that's what I did. I started the run, and after the first kilometer, I gave myself a pat on the back, but then I had to keep pep talking myself all the way for the rest of the 2.8 kilometers. You can do it. Just 500 meters. Keep going till you reach that post. Slow down. It's okay. You can do it slow. Come on, come on, come on. Your baby needs you. Do something. You have to finish. And as I was pep talking myself, I came to the last 800 meters and I could see it. Kill hill. I struggled and struggled all the way up that hill, and I'm pretty sure that even though I was running, people were walking faster than me. It was brutal, but when I finally made it to the top of the hill, it was magic. I remember having such a strong sense of accomplishment that day. not being able to complete the loop for so long and just deciding on a whim to do it after a full day of work, all while in my first trimester. It was amazing. Then I ran my first 5K on a flat route at 9-ish weeks pregnant before flying home. And while in Perth, I was still running 4 kilometers a couple times and feeling really good about myself. I think I stopped running in the middle of my second trimester when I started to feel the weight a bit more. And I didn't want baby to feel like she was in a bouncy castle all the time. I didn't get back into running until 6 months postpartum, and that was really hard. But because I already had the knowledge that I could run 5 kilometers, I was working towards doing that again. Now baby is almost 2 years old and I'm running pretty regularly. I am able to do 10K, thank you. And I'm planning to run a half marathon next year with my friends, so wish me luck. So yeah, that's my running background. Now, what has this story and running taught me about art? It's taught me about patience, endurance, and goal setting. When I started running again in 2021, I couldn't even run a full kilometer without taking a break. So I started really small, 1 kilometer. What was great about our neighborhood was that when I ran to the main road and then back through the street, it was exactly a 1 kilometer loop. So I started with that, 1 kilometer. Then I added another street, another kilometer, and then another street, 3 kilometers. Adding on those extra kilometers took like a month, if not more, before getting comfortable enough to add more. Now on a really good day, I can run 10K. Not all the time, but I know it's possible for me. So with my art, I've started to learn how to set smaller, achievable goals. Like instead of creating a new piece every day, all I have to do is work on my business, any part of my business, for at least 10 minutes. And it doesn't have to be every day, just most days or even some days. When I'm running, I'm solely responsible for the output. The goals I create need to be achievable by me and me alone. Getting X amount of clients isn't achievable on my own because I need another party to complete it, right? But sending out 100 cold emails is something that I can achieve on my own. I have learned that growth isn't linear. When I take a break from running, like when I'm on holiday or I have a really bad sickness, it takes a while to re-establish that baseline and comfort in my running, which I'm okay with. Life happens, and when you have a family in the early days, it's really hard to control how much energy you're going to have the next day or the next week. With my art, I have really good weeks and really bad weeks. So I'm finding ways to combat those really bad weeks by metaphorically taking short walks instead of longer runs. That could be like letting myself look instead of do. With my new Love and Peace project, I spend a lot of time just looking at videos and pictures of plants, researching how the plant grows and how people design their backyards. And when I feel like I have soaked up enough visuals, I'm ready to get back into the run and re-establish that baseline. I have learned how to break up those big goals into small tasks. Like what I mentioned before with adding 1 kilometer at a time. That was because I wanted to achieve a 5 kilometer run. Like that's obviously a thing you have to achieve when you start running, right? So even though I was only doing 1 or 2K, I knew that eventually I would get to 5K. When I finally achieved that, I thought I will eventually get to 10K. I just have to hit the 6, 7, 8, and 9. With this YouTube, I would love to reach 1,000 subscribers, but first I have to create 5 videos, then 10, then 15, and so on. If people want to subscribe, that is up to them, but I need to take on these first steps in order to reach that longer goal. If I keep this up, I will hopefully eventually reach that goal and have 1,000 lovely people watching my videos. If you have ever run in your life, you know that it's 50% physicality and 50% mentality. Running kind of aimlessly is you constantly analyzing if you're okay to go a bit further. Can I run to that next tree? Can I do another 200 meters? Can I run until Strava tells me I've hit a magical number? I need the medals. You don't think about anything else. No meal prepping, no gossip, no bad-mouthing yourself. You just think about hitting that next mark and finishing the run. So that's what I'm trying to do for myself in this business. More powwows, less haranguing. Focus on getting to the next goal and your long-term goal for your business and life. I hope you liked this video, and I hope you all are taking care of your art souls as well as your health souls, whatever it looks like for you. Pilates if you can afford it, nice long walks, hardcore CrossFit if that's more your speed. Drink water, eat your greens. I'm not your mom, so you don't have to listen to me, obviously. Till the next video. Bye!